Oh, hey. Yeah, fall's in the air. I'm experimenting with some leaves. This is going to be some of my ground cover for my leaves for fall on the layout. Trying to get them dried out. Here in the Northwest, leaves are not, pine needles are more common. But I have a couple really good trees nearby me, and I'm trying to collect them up and get them all dried out and use them. And I apologize, it's been a long time. John and me have been, well, to say we haven't been home would be an understatement. Matter of fact, John's not home yet. He's still out of the country. And I have been just everywhere you can possibly imagine. My job is not changing, well, a little bit, but mostly what I've been doing is training and learning new instrumentation that I have to repair. And that has been quite a challenge for me. Not the learning, just I'm at class learning. So I've been in Southern California. As a matter of fact, I spent a month down there in class learning a new instrument. And so it's been really kind of a challenge to get some work done in here. And of course that means if I'm not even around to do videos, which has been a real problem. But Sean has been, and he's been working on a model for the whole time that we've been gone, John and me. And I'm going to show you as part of Western Foundry. It is a absolutely exquisite paper model, and it really looks good. And the scene is beginning to come together. Right now we're just getting the models together, kind of getting them all built together. But enough of that. Let's go take a look at what we're doing, and we'll show you what's up. And of course, we're not going to be outside because it's snowing. Doesn't happen here much. In any case, come on in and we'll take a look at the layout. Okay, just as a review to take a look at this. So, this is Longmont in reality. This is a map from 1950, I think it's probably 1958, something close to this. So the main line, this is the main line here, and it comes down from Loveland. This is the street run we're talking about. The sugar mill is this complex right over here. This is the sugar mill. The cannery is located right here. And this location right here is where Longmont Foods are. So the elements I'm trying to capture is the street run right here, the sugar mill, Longmont Foods, and the cannery and Longmont Foods. This line right here comes through the street. The main line comes through here and continues on to Denver, running down this line right through here. This line goes over to the transfer yard and continues on east. This goes out to Lyons out west, and this actually goes out to a mine out by Lyons. So that's the area that we're trying to get to model. So now we'll take a look at what I did on the layout. Okay, here's the old layout. This is coming out of this A here is coming out of the staging yard. This is going through the Loveland Y. Loveland is down over in this area here. And then this is the part that you've seen already that's scenic when the very beginning of the video. This is where we took that shot. And as it comes around here, it comes into Longmont. Now, for the layout, I needed a siding so I could have two trains pass. One coming from, say, heading south down to Denver, and another one going north towards Loveland. So this gave me an operational necessity to allow me to pass two trains on the single main line. When talking to George Booth, who models the Great Western Sugar Railroad in the same area of Longmont, we were talking about the design of this layout and what you see right here, and George made a comment, hey, wouldn't it be really neat if you could run it down the street run? And so that got me to thinking, and this is what the new layout looks like now. So again, you have coming out of staging, this again is the Loveland Y as it comes around here, and as you come into here, this is now what the yard looks like. So my siding or passing siding has now become a portion that you come through the main town here and then come back off. This allows me to use to run trains through town like the main line would run, and give that image of it. It gives it a much more realistic feel. The other thing is it allows me to keep all my work from the transfer yard, and moving the local can work all in this area here and not interfere with this main line going back and forth. So it's a compromise whenever you do that kind of stuff, but that's exactly what we're doing. We're making a compromise, and this is what we're doing. So enough of what we did. Now let's go take a look at the layout and the way it looks right now. Now let's take a look at what we did. So this is kind of an overview of the area you're going to see here. We're going to actually take the camera. We'll pass through this area here, but I just kind of want to touch on some things that I did. The roads, I did it with a plaster product. I tried several different spackling type products and different things like that. Did not like the way it worked. As a matter of fact, I had to actually rip them out at one point in time. So this is actually an all plaster product. I built forms and then put them into place. I used Woodland Scenics tape and basically poured them and put them into place. Now these roads only have their base color on. I still have to put striping on, still have to weather them, things of that nature. So that's one of the things that you're gonna see as we came through here. The other thing is I've been experimenting with basswood, 16th inch thick. This is sidewalks that I actually cut with it. I've got two different styles of sidewalks here. I've got this style here that are right into the road and with the curb built right into it. The other ones back here down the one-way road, they're basically the sidewalks, then it has a space of grass, and then the curb that's up the edge there. So that is what you're going to see when you kind of come through here. The other thing with dealing with this, one of the things I wanted to accomplish was I wanted to have the buildings kind of sitting up a little higher, just to give that kind of a perspective. It just looks better when you're looking at a layout. The other thing was it allowed me to put a hump in front of the road going up against the backdrop, and then from there I'll actually paint the road onto the backdrop as it fades back into the bushes or trees or whatever it is that got into there. Now that's a little intimidating. I am not an artist. Yes, I did paint my backdrops, and if some of you watched the earlier videos, I show you how I did that, but it literally took me 8 attempts before I got what I was happy with. That's not to say that the other attempts were not better, or excuse me, were not good enough. It's just it did not have the color palette that I was looking for to portray Denver. And so that was kind of a lot of the experiment that I did with that. It's a very easy process to paint the backdrops. It really is. But painting a road is a man-made object, and I'm a little intimidated, but I'm going to do it, and you'll see the end results with it there. One of the things I ran into when I, of course, was building the buildings up. Now, the buildings are literally only 12 scale inches off of the level of the road, but it's enough to give that image that I was looking for. But with that came an additional challenge, and one of those challenges was that, let's say this is the base of the sub bed, which was the chipboard, and I'll get into that in a minute. Then I had a road that was sitting on top of it there, and then I had this buildup. And so if you kind of take a look at this here, I have a gap that's in between here, and I can't feel plaster in here because it'll get on top of my nice clean road. And I was trying to figure out how I could actually build this area in and manipulate it and set it up so that I could get exactly what I was looking for and not have to clean up a plaster mess and have plaster all over the stuff and everything else. So what I ended up doing to fill this area in was I was playing with my grandkids, and they were playing with Play-Doh, and I'm like, oh, I could use non-drying clay. Now I could use drying clay, but the reason why I want to use non-drying clay is because it gave me the opportunity to manipulate it and to kind of work with the buildings and move them around and get different things set the way I wanted to. And the advantage of non-drying clay is that it doesn't dry, it just stays where it's at. it stays soft. And now as it gets colder, it gets a little harder, and that's, you know, you have to warm it up with your hands if you're going to manipulate it originally into place. Now once it's in the place, I want it to get there. And when I finish up this, the very last step I'm going to do is I will take everything that's out of there, the trees, which by the way, those are just placeholder trees, and we'll get to that in a minute too. I'll take the building out, the cars out, and everything else, and I will put the base of the building, I will put cellophane on the bottom of it. I'll then take the clay and mix it with a little, I'll mix wood glue and water a little bit, and then I'll paint a coat of wood glue over top of the clay. That'll firm it up a bit. Not that it's really necessary, but if I have that firm coat to work with, I just feel it'll be a little more comfortable to work with. It'll also help me take the buildings in and out without, because with the clay in there, it sticks a bit, which is fine when I want it to, you know, move it up and hold it into place. But once I get it set to where I want it to be, I want to be able to take those buildings out easily enough without disturbing my scenery. So by putting a layer of wood glue into there, setting the building into there, and then putting it with cellophane on there, letting it dry, I can then take the building out, take the cellophane out, and now I've got a hard surface that's built right flush up against the building, and it'll work just fine. So that's if you run into a situation like that where you want to manipulate something and you're just not sure, the nice thing is that I can use sculpting tools or my fingers and just kind of move them into place to get the texture or the contours that I want. So as we pass through there, you'll see that. It's really kind of nice. The tracks, the rails have all have their base coat down. They're ready to go. I'd be running trains, but I painted these several days ago. Just haven't had time to get them cleaned up to the point that I know that they will run perfectly well. Next time we do a video, we'll certainly have trains running through here. So that's got that done. I've got this area all set up. These buildings in the back are pretty well set. You're going to see a few of some scratch built. I got one scratch built house in here and a couple mocked up, roughed in garages that are in place here. Again, one of the things we're going to be doing with the backdrop is trying to decide. I've got photos. Now these are photos I took of houses when I was traveling around, and I'm going to use them on the backdrop in some areas. You want to break that backdrop up from your foreground a bit. So I've got the houses, and what I'll do is I'll have privacy fences, bushes, trees, things like that are between the backdrop and the house to block that off a little bit so you can't see a perfect corner there. That was the other reason why I raised it up, because I can hump it back down and into there, and so when you look at it up the hill, you just see the edge of the backdrop. So all this kind of fits together with different ideas. Now, one of the things I get oftentimes the question is, hey Mike, I see you use waffle board or chipboard for your tabletop. Well, I use, if you look back at the videos, you saw that we used birch plywood, 3/4 inch birch plywood, high quality stuff, and we cut it up and use it for dimensional lumber. I just find that today's or pine 1x4s are just not the same quality as they used to be, and so I now take and use plywood. And by the way, using the plywood and cutting it up on my table saw is actually cheaper than buying the pine. So I get a better quality product, a much more predictable product that works really well. But on the deck of this, you know, I'm going to paint it. I'm going to put textures on it. I'm going to put scenery on it and everything else. I don't need it to be, you know, that pine, that birch quality top on it, because I'm going to manipulate it a lot more, and it's just, you're not going to see it. And you know what? Here's a clue. I'm sure most of you have probably caught on. The earth is not flat. Just saying, you know. So one of the things when I was working on this, because the roads were raised up, I wanted to form the contours of kind of bringing this up a bit so that the road wasn't actually sitting awfully high, and also bring the edge of the table and everything all to a nice, clean, crisp edge So by using plaster here in these areas in here, I've actually begun to form some contours. So when you pass over here, you're going to see that it's not perfectly level. If you were to put a marble here, it would roll down that way. Now, if you go back to the yard where I laid the yard and you put a marble where the yard is, it's perfectly flat. That marble's not going to go anywhere. So this is just a way of manipulating the scene so it creates a more believable scene of it's got contours, it's not perfectly level, it's not flat, it's not plywood central. And then by doing that, I can add my own ground covers and everything else, and it'll work out really well. So let me kind of just lay out some of the buildings we have here. Back here is the new paper building that Sean built. And in front of that is a Monster Model Works that it's a machine shop, and it's got a little bit of an interior in here. This right here will be a junkyard and automotive repair shop right in this area in here. And then you've got the street run. Now, where you're at standing right now, literally you're standing in front of the sugar mill that's there. So what I really want to create is an image that shows this this part of it is kind of an industrial area over here, and then as it comes into town, I want to have trees that are a little taller than the buildings and kind of form a view block a little bit that comes through here so that it breaks up this part of town and that part of town. And what it does mostly is it takes this 25-foot long peninsula and it breaks it up into 3 vignettes that will work really well. And then as you're driving your train through this area here, you'll have a real sense of traveling through distance. So that's kind of what my plan is and how this is working out. But what I'm going to do is let's take the camera and kind of just pass through the scenery and so you can have a real good look at it. So hang on. Okay, this is looking at Western Foundry. So to give you kind of an idea here, this is the yard. There's the mock-up of the sugar plant, or the sugar mill there. We're going right down here. This is going to the Western Foundry. And you can see this is the paper building up front, or in the back here. And it looks fantastic as you put it together. That is a Jimmy Simmons model right there in front. You can see the interior in there. And that is that complex right there. This will be basically my junkyard. And then as you get into here, you can see we're getting into town. So there is one of the roads right there. And looking into town, this kind of just gives you an image of what it's going to look like. Something very close to this. The models are not quite done. This is one of my scratch-built houses right there. Again, not quite done yet. Kind of going through there, you can see that they're not done, but it gives me the ability to work on them and to get the models put together. So we'll back out of here just a bit. And this is kind of an overview of town as a whole. And again, another road on this side into here. And then as we come into here, this will be the cannery. And then Longmont Foods right there. So again, from this side of the layout, this is kind of what it will look like. But this is probably about the height that I'm standing at right now. It's about 4'5", 5'4".
So that's Longmont. It's turning out pretty well. I want to touch base on a couple different things that I've been working on that are not visible. These are some switch machines that I've been kind of experimenting with, a couple different ideas here. And not that you need to see the details of them, but the idea behind this is to make it, right now when we install a servo, it's a two-man job, and it would be easier if it was a single-man job. I spend a lot of time out here working on different things myself and doing them alone. So if I can create a method or a machine that I can actually line up the points, get the servo into place and hold it and actually be able to manipulate it much easier than what I currently do, that would be a huge plus. So I've been working on that. The other thing is the laser has become quite a conversation piece on in different locations. I get a lot of questions about my laser. And I've been experimenting with a new product that I came across from at one of the laser blogs that I'm on. This model here, and you may have seen it when we were doing the walkthrough. There's a couple garages that I made. This was made out of a chipboard or a cardboard. This particular one is made out of a 5-ply, which I got at Blick Art. I believe it was, I'm gonna say maybe $1.79 for the 5-ply. And it takes a laser, it's easy to cut, it's not that much work. The nice thing is it is a cardboard material, so it's easy to glue together and to cut with the laser. It looks good, and I'm going to be experimenting a little more with that. Sean has done a lot of paper models, and I'm kind of starting to lean in that direction. And if I can get this product to work really well and putting some really nice paper structures together, it'd be kind of nice, because this little garage I built here, two of them, they cost me pennies to build. And that product, like I said, this is made out of 5-ply. The next project I'm working on is Longmont Foods down there, and we're going to try it with the 30-ply. This is a little thicker stuff. So the 5-ply here, it's less than a 1/16 of an inch thick, but thicker than 1/32. It's about 4 scale inches thick. I bought this from Blick Art, and I'll put the link on the bottom of the YouTube for this description down below of this video. I got these from Blick Art. This is the 5-ply. It seemed to me that I paid, it's like 22 by 24 inch and something like that. It cost me like 79 cents for that. This 30-ply is probably closer to 16 inches in scale, and very heavy cardboard. And I think I want to try doing that because while the Longmont Foods was a modern cement building, the sugar mill is not. And Sean has really been turning me on to these paper models more and more. And I like the way they look. And I think that we might be able to build the sugar mill with this 30-ply and some paper, and kind of trying that. So I'm experimenting a little bit with that. You'll see the results of that as we move forward. Other than that, that's pretty much what's been going on. It's been a very busy month, a couple months. I apologize for the delay in getting some of these videos out. As it is, I'm so busy. Typically, I try to come out and work on the layout 20 minutes every night that I'm home. Many of you know that I do travel for my job. So I try to do that. And then on the weekends, I typically am out here on Saturday between 5 and 12 hours on Saturday, sometimes with the crew, sometimes just by myself working, and that's how we're getting a lot of this done. So I get probably somewhere, let's say if I get 5 hours on a Saturday and 20 minutes through the week, 5 hours, that's another hour. So I'm getting about 6 to 13 hours a week working on the layout. Occasionally on Sunday I get a couple more, I get an hour or two here as well. So I'm trying to get it about 17 hours. And when the crew's out here, it really is helpful. But like I said, the last couple of months, as a matter of fact, John is still not home. He's been on the road that long. So we're trying to get going and getting things moving, but it has been quite a challenge. So in any case, that's this month and this update. I hope you enjoyed it. My hope is, matter of fact, I had trains running here, but I just recently painted these tracks and I haven't had a chance to clean them yet. Otherwise, I had trains running through the scenes. But next time we'll have trains running, and you can be able to see a little more of the scenery as we get moving forward. So until next time, happy modeling.